I'm going to focus on some work that we have been doing in China in the last year or so. And I have to say that engaging with Asia and China especially has really changed, I think, our practice, the way we work, because of the speed, the size and the scale that China works. It's really having an impact on the way we work. So if we start at the beginning of the story. So all living things inhabit a thin outer ring, known in ecological sciences as the biosphere. This very thin ring where we all exist, all living things. And conventional ecology, which is of course the foundation of landscape architecture, divides the biosphere into a small number of wild biomes. And traditionally these biomes have been known as forest, grassland, aquatic, desert, tundra, and some other classifications. So for 7 million years humans have occupied these biomes as we've evolved with those biomes, and we've had fairly minimal impact on their wild condition. Until now, enter the Anthropocene epoch. Humans have had a fundamental impact on the biospheres, on the biosphere itself. So with 7.6 billion humans, we've radically altered these wild biomes and ecosystems. We're warming the climate, and we're disturbing and upending and changing billions of years of evolution. And we've done this in a very short period of time. So Homo sapiens as a species, we've proved our dominance of the natural world by mastering our ability to modify ecosystems and engineer entire biomes on a global scale. We are creating nature. In 2008, Ellis and Ramankutty, two American ecologists, radical ecologists, proposed this term, the anthrome. And the anthrome is an anthropocentric biome. So what they discovered was that there was a gap in human influence over biome classifications. And they moved with their research to fill that gap and make new propositions as to how ecology should be defining biomes. So they proposed 6 new types of anthromes, and they're all ranked according to population density, or the amount of impact that humans have on each of those systems. So the 6 are dense settlement, village, cropland, rangeland, forested land, and wildland. They did this incredible spatial mapping using mosaics and looked at the whole of the globe. And they mapped these anthropogenic biomes or anthromes onto the surface of the Earth. On the right-hand side there, you can see those sort of purple colours and reds. They're the dense settlements, so they're the big cities. You can see them sitting in Asia and Europe. And also at the other end of the spectrum, on the bottom of the graph, you can see how few wildlands remain. So these wild forests, trees, and barren lands now occupy a very small piece of the Earth. There's beautiful mapping that went with their research, and this depicts, you can see in those purple red colours again, the places on the Earth where we have very dense and large settlements, and then the greener colours and the lighter colours being those that are still remaining essentially in a wild condition. So their premise, I think, and using this concept of novel nature, which has been developed through ecology, is that the city is actually nature. This is an ecosystem. Humans are part of the natural world, and what we have created and what we're modifying in these anthromes is nature. So this causes, there needs to be a paradigm shift in how we plan our cities and think about them in response to this ecological science. More than half of us are living in dense settlement anthromes or cities. And cities are now, or we have created them to be the major habitat of the human race. We have engineered them. There are now more than 4,000 cities across the world and a whole number of megacities. So as we approach 2050 and we hit 9 billion people, how can these cities accommodate the population growth and still and sustain the natural resources required to keep these cities and humans alive? So we need to adopt ecosystem thinking to our cities in order to preserve resilience or to create resilience, but also to improve human and ecological health. So as a result of that work and of the work that we've been doing for a number of years, I'm working on a model for city design. And this is a paradigm shift in thinking of the city as an anthrome. So effectively, a city is a system of systems. Now, these 10 systems I've developed in order to try and capture the key structures and processes that these anthromes have. So there are 5 urban systems and 5 biosystems. The biosystems are food, which is quite self-evident, humanity, so governance, legal frameworks, landscape, the terrestrial ecosystems, waste, so our outputs, and water. So today's conversation is around water, but I think it's important to remember that water is only one of these 10 systems and that it has impacts and crossovers into all of these other systems. Then on the urban side, we have economy, which obviously drives cities, energy, mobility, structure, so form, architecture, infrastructure, and technology, which is emerging more and more, big data, and the way that we use AI and all of these things and their impact. So here's a way of looking at and restructuring and managing the city as a system of systems. So the premise here is that if we can transform our metropolitan planning at the large scale and also at the project scale, but if we can recognise the anthrome and intelligently balance investment across these interconnected systems, we can actually advance human and ecosystem health. At the moment, most of our metropolitan planning is very, very narrow. It focuses on economics, transport infrastructure, housing, jobs. It doesn't take into consideration the full gamut of these systems and how they interact with each other. And I think that's leading to poor decision making and in cities that are unhealthy. So I want to use coming back to water now as one of those 10 systems. I'd like to have a look at some of the work that we've been doing in China and have explain some of that. So water is a very precious thing. There's only 2.5% of it that's fresh and is available for us to use. And of course we're polluting that more and more on a daily basis. But out of that, there's a tiny proportion of it that's accessible to us. And of course, without clean water, in fact, human beings, I think, are 80% water. Without it, we perish. So we're not treating these precious systems very well. We haven't been intelligent with how we deal with water. So in China, one of the things that's a big issue is air pollution. So we're picking up solid fossil fuels, liquid fossil fuels. We're gasifying them, which go into the atmosphere and cause global warming. And then all the knock-on effects that we have with sea level rise and these other things are all attributed and wrapped up into how humans are modifying these geologies. The other thing in China and I think that the sponge cities have been born from, is dealing with flooding. So we've built across wetlands, we built across our estuaries, our deltas, and that, of course, has led to incredible flooding and storm inundation. So where is China today in terms of the urban water system advancement? This is one of Tony Wong's diagrams that I use. But cities in the 1900s, in the Industrial Revolution, were moving from potable water supply. Then we had a sewer system, stormwater drainage, and storm defence. So these are the typical hard engineering, grey infrastructure initiatives that most cities have, and Chinese cities have. So in Australia and in other places, we're moving towards now pollution control and into water-sensitive urban design. We've been working on that for 10 to 20 years. I still think the uptake has been very, very slow, too slow. But things are moving. So I think China is on this precipice. Sponge Cities is an incredible movement which has focused the central government mandate into projects across the country and focusing on water. So we're a little bit ahead of China, but China will catch up quickly. And these Sponge City projects are moving very quickly. So ultimately, we want to end up with water smart cities and better human and ecosystem health. Sponge Cities are built on 4 platforms: urban, peri-urban, industrial, and agriculture. So they do recognise that the interaction of water in all of these places in their cities is very important. I'm going to quickly show 3 projects, which are actually all competitions that we've done in the last year in China, and sponge cities is an embedded principle in all of them. I'm going to show a little movie here.
Long before humans arrived in ancient Shenzhen, the earth under China was unsettled. In the Mesozoic period, a powerful tectonic collision took place between the Philippine Sea Plate and the Eurasian Land Plate, causing the Danao Ke mountain range to be uplifted. A tropical forest of lychee, rosewood, and umbrella trees established over the steep slopes. Humans arrived around 4000 BCE, settling in a small rural village. In 1979, the city began its rapid expansion into a global megacity, establishing a cultural axis upon which the Shenzhen Civic Center was located in the Fujian Central Business District. To increase public recreation facilities for its growing population, the Longhua district of Shenzhen plans to build a new regional park at Danao Ke Mountain. To the north of the city center lie 3 majestic mountains, the Danao Ke, Huangju, and Lianghua mountain peaks that together form a parkland triangle at the geographic center of the city, aligned to its cultural axis. The mountains are accessed from the civic center along Mailin Street to the new Mountain Link Bridge, providing direct hiking access to the twin peaks of Danao Ke and Huangju. The epicenter of the new park, Danao Ke Mountain Base Hub, is a 1-kilometer walk away. The hub is the vibrant center for visitor activities, including an information center, park ranger headquarters, underground car park, restaurant, cafe and bar, medical center, mountain bike rental, and outdoor adventure shop. The hub features a lively central pedestrian plaza, an urban park, and a green roof sports park with a treetop ropes course, zip lines, and skate facility. Located on the central plaza is the Danao Ke Gondola Ropeway, lifting hikers and mountain bikers 280 vertical meters to the top station and Sunset Restaurant. Accommodating 10 persons per cabin, the lift is capable of carrying 1,800 visitors per hour. The mountain peak lookout is only a short walk from the lift, providing breathtaking views of the city beyond. Access to the mountain trail network is provided through 11 separate entry points for walkers, hikers, and mountain bikers. 3 of the entries utilize viaducts under the motorway to create distinctive shady outdoor rooms. 39 kilometers of trails for walking and hiking are provided to suit a diversity of users. Trails are graded for difficulty, allowing a diverse series of links and loops. The trail network has a range of facilities, including campsites, suspension bridges, raised boardwalks, rest points, and lookouts. The Noizhou Water Reserve Trail is a 7-kilometer loop around the water's edge, which includes a water walk. Adding to the adventure spirit of the park, 7 kilometers of downhill mountain bike trails are provided. An additional shared trail system provides another 18 kilometers of off-road cycling along the ridgetop and mountain base, enabling forest firefighting, maintenance, and emergency evacuation activities. Ensuring safety for park users is paramount, and an intelligent QR-based wayfinding system utilizing a smartphone app will be deployed. Traditional interpretation signage will be deployed for environmental education. The rugged peaks of Danao Ke Mountain Park will be a world-class recreation area to be enjoyed by the citizens of Shenzhen. The park will ensure conservation of the wild forest and its wildlife for future generations.
So I think this project is typical of many projects in China. It's very forward-thinking. Shenzhen is the Silicon Valley of China, so the government there has recognised that recreational amenity, environmental amenity is crucial to the lifestyle of the city and providing amenity for knowledge workers. So, but water in this project was actually a driver because the drinking water reservoir at the top of the site and the reservoir and dam at the bottom of the site were drivers of the design. So we actually choreographed and looked at all of the hydraulic patterns on the mountain. The urban areas we designed in a way that we would capture and harvest water. We would move it into new systems, swale systems, and then bring it into the reservoir and empty it out as part of a connected network. So I think that this Sponge City WSUD work is now becoming kind of fundamental to most of the big competitions and projects in China. It's not an add-on, it's just something that is part and parcel of doing the work. But by embedding it deeply at the concept level, you can really get some powerful outcomes, especially at these scales. So here's the mountain base area that we've master planned. It integrates mixed-use housing and corporate headquarters with a sports park, amenity, residential, etc. And then it also continues or keeps the natural areas and the ecological parts of the site untouched and intact, but it has kind of light interventions that allow people to move through and engage with that area, but keeps it as an ecological reserve. And then by building those WSUD systems or Sponge City systems into the park, they actually create points where you can create bridge entrances and pathways across, so that the way you enter the park is also part and parcel of the water network. The next project is the Lingang Bird Airport, which is a competition that we won. It is in Tianjin in northern China, and it's in the Binhai area, which is the port that brings all the goods into, was the gateway for all of the goods coming into Beijing. Very, very big port, expanding very quickly. And it's actually on the East Australian Asian Flyway. So this diagram indicates birds going all the way from New Zealand and all the way up to Alaska, through Asia and across Australia and through China. But because of the expansion of the port, the impact on the bird habitat has been actually substantial. So the amount of habitat remaining for these migratory birds is shrinking. So this project, this is the site, it's actually a novel ecosystem because it's an accidental wetland. It's been created by bunding of urban landfill, which has then allowed it to fill up with water. And the migratory birds have begun to land here. So the brief was to try and enhance that migratory bird habitat, which is why we call it a bird airport, and to also provide a human park and amenity space. So again, the driver of the project was water. So Binhai Port has a black water treatment system. So they're already doing a great job of recycling and treating the black water mechanically through engineering plant. And it comes past the side here in a channel. Then it's collected, it's moved into a sort of primary feeding lake where we have a constructed wetland, and it moves through that. And then from there, it's very clean and it goes into the migratory bird habitat. So what we didn't want to do was put treated effluent, which still is high in some nutrients, into the bird habitat because it affects the soil quality and the microorganisms that the birds need for living on. So of course, like all of these things, we have a water system and a mix of rainwater, black water, constructed wetland water that comes together to kind of form a full model. Then we overlaid the bird preservation plan onto that and looked at the sections. So the migratory birds, some of them have got short legs, some of them have got long legs. So you've got to provide a gradient of floors in the wetland that accommodate all the different species. So we wanted to try and increase or enhance the bird mix that was already there. And of course, the soil organisms. So if you're in a bird airport, you know, this is their Starbucks and their Hungry Jacks and, you know, their kind of food they're coming in to grab and go on. So you've got to look after those things. So there's very much an ecology to the soil, to the water treatment, and then a set of bird viewing kind of concrete structures and a whole network of education facilities, of a theaterette for meeting and for bringing school kids in, and a way of powerfully telling the stories of those birds that are on that flyway. The last project is another competition, and it's on the Hongpao River in Shanghai, and it's in, or just adjacent to Pudong. So again, this was an old shipyard site, and actually the birth of industrial manufacturing in China was through shipping. So there are many Europeans who came in and started these ship industries, and many of the rivers, especially in Shanghai, there were shipyards and docks all the way along the edges of the river where they built boats. So it's an important site in terms of its cultural heritage. So we put together a master plan for a 1 kilometre intervention on this. And you can see on the bottom corner is the old slipway, so we preserve that. And then a set of recreational and cultural facilities that overlay. And importantly, also ripping out the existing river edge and creating a new kind of structure to the edge of the river, which we thought could be a model for all of Shanghai. So recreating a natural edge to the river in the mud flat, allowing the light in there, and removing some of the structure with a lightweight boardwalk. So again, kind of large-scale ecological intervention, which is eventually could help to clean up the water in the river. And then also this was a concrete bunker. It was a military bunker, actually, that was on the site. So we proposed to take the lids off those bunkers and then retain the structure and then to drop in some of the sort of recreational facilities. And again, I think China is now needs to move more quickly, but it's slowly incorporating recreational amenity into its cities, parks and open space. It has to do it much quicker because the density of people there and their opportunity for recreation and amenity is still very, very small. And the impact on human health, of course, is big. So that's the end of the story, but I think China is really, really exciting, and it's actually a great place to experiment too, on a scale that you can't do in Australia. The projects that you can actually work on there and the speed of them are so incredibly scaled that you can test and experiment much bigger than you can here. So that's exciting because we're starting to bring that work back into Australian projects. Excuse me. So. Thank you very much, and I look forward to listening to Konjian.